Yeah, g'day everyone, it's Roberto here from Finieri Wood-Fired Ovens. Today I'm going to make a pizza dough. This is a Polish based piece of dough. It's not my recipe, it's a recipe I got from a guy called Marco Capiotti. It's my go-to recipe, it's my favourite recipe of all the pizza dough recipes. I've tried Bega's and other people's Polish recipes, but this is my favourite. So this recipe will make you 4 balls at around 280 grams, which in 280 grams will give you a 14-inch pizza, quite a large pizza. Or you might get 5 balls out of this at 245 or 250 grams. You might get 5 dough balls, which is a 12-inch pizza. I've got the recipe in the description below for 4 balls, but I'm going to double this recipe because I need 8 pizza balls or 9 pizza balls. So I'll be doubling everything in this recipe. So what we're going to need for this is 850 grams of cold tap water, 850 grams of 00 flour. The Caputo Pizzeria I have found to be the best flour of all flours. It's different, they are different, you will get different results. For me this is the best of them all. And you're going to need 3 grams of dried yeast, remembering I've doubled everything. We're also going to need a bowl to put the Poolish in. We're going to need a fork, we probably need some scales and 2 hands, and that's really all we need to get this recipe going. So I'm going to put 850 grams of the flour straight into the bowl. I'm going to add 3 grams of dried yeast, which is about a level teaspoon, just probably a touch more. Just chuck that on top, sprinkle that on top. I'll give that a very light mix, get that instant dry yeast just mixed through the flour, just like that. Very, very simple stuff. We're going to pour in all our water. Straight in. Now with our fork, we're going to mix that up and just going to beat it, and we're going to get a batter. It's going to look like a batter. This whole process is going to take 2 or 3 minutes. Extremely simple to make a Polish. And the Polish, again in my opinion, is the key to an excellent pizza dough. You can do Bega's. Bega's are quite good as well. So a Bega will give you a crunchier dough from what I've found, whereas a Polish will give you a softer dough. It's a very wet mix. I would recommend doing this recipe with a mixer. It gets a bit tricky by hand because it's extremely sticky because it's very, very wet. Whereas a Bega type, which is a drier dough, it's not as sticky on your hands. This is a 70% hydration, it's quite sticky. So you can see that, all I'm doing is beating this like a whipped cream or whatever you want to call it. That's it. That's a Polish. That's as much as effort as required. We're now going to cover that with some Glad wrap. We'll leave it on the bench for maybe half an hour or so. If you want, if not, straight in the fridge. Minimum 12 hours, maximum 24 hours for a Polish. This is going to grow quite a bit, and it's going to be light and airy, and that's the key to our dough. Okay, so we're back for the second part of this recipe. So I've got the Polish that's come out of the fridge. It's very cold, you can have a look at that. And that's come up beautiful, beautiful. Now this recipe is easier done in a mixer. You can do it by hand, it's just a very sticky dough to do by hand, and the mixer makes very good, easy work of this. So we want to get all that out, like that. And to that, we're going to add 480 grams of flour, 150 grams of water, 40 grams of sea salt, and 30 grams of extra virgin olive oil. Use sea salt, don't use home table salt, you need sea salt for these pizza doughs. So, Poolish is in the mixer, put our lid down, we'll start that up on a slow speed, the slowest speed. If you've got a mixer and it's numbered 1 to 10, we're going to start this off on a number 1. So our Poolish is in there, and we're going to add our flour, a little bit at a time. So this whole recipe, as I add these ingredients, it's going to be a little bit at a time. And we want to give it the flour, for example, and all the other ingredients, the salt, the water, the oil. We want to give it time to get into the dough. We don't want to just chuck everything all at once. And the order in which we make this recipe is quite important as well. So we need to please follow the order. Like I said, I'm going to have the recipe down below. Just to recap, I'm doing double. The recipe I post will be for 4 balls at 280 grams. I'm making 8 balls at 280 grams in this recipe. I've just doubled everything. So our flour is in there mixing. I'm going to move the camera and I'm going to bring it over to this as I add the ingredients, just so you can see it mixing. So I'll do that now. Okay, so we're going to keep adding our flour, a little bit at a time. I'll speed most of this up. So we add a bit of flour, we wait until it all gets absorbed, and we add a bit more. And keep waiting for it to get absorbed. Okay, so that flour's been taken up by the dough. You'll see that there's bits on the side of the mixer that haven't yet taken, but that's fine. It's sort of all come together because we're going to add some more water later. And now we add our salt. There's 40 grams of sea salt here. We put our salt in a little bit at a time as well. Give it time to get absorbed and incorporated. So that mix has been going for about 10 minutes now, and as we add the salt, we're going to increase the speed. We're going to increase it to about speed 5. So if you've got a 1 to 10 mixer, we started it on number 1 and we've increased it to number 5, half the speed of the mixer. Okay, so now we've got all our salt in. And we've got 75 grams of cold tap water. And we're going to add this water little by little as well. Everything little by little. Give the dough time to take everything in. Probably mix the salt and the water in over the next 10 minutes, which will be about 20 minutes of mixer time. Okay, so we've put the rest of our water in, and at this point, if there's anything stuck on the side of your bowl, we'll stop the mixer, scrape down the sides of your bowl if there's anything stuck on there. Scrape that down, start it up again. Okay, so once you've seen all that water get taken in, the dough's looking pretty good, we're going to slowly add our olive oil. So we've got 30 grams of extra virgin olive oil, a good quality olive oil. And we're going to put that in little by little until that gets taken up. Okay, all our olive oil's gone in. That's the end of our recipe. We're going to wait for that shine of the olive oil just to disappear so we know it's all been mixed in well. And then I'll show you the most important part of this whole recipe. Alright, so you can see everything's been taken in. So everything's been mixed in, as you can see here. Now if I lift up this dough, you can see it's got some elasticity to it. It's got some pretty good elasticity to it, but it's sort of, as you try to thin it out, it's starting to break. So that dough is not ready. Now if you've got an infrared gun, which you should have if you've got a pizza oven, and we put it on there, you can see that that dough's at 20 degrees Celsius. So we want to mix this until we get it to about 24 degrees Celsius. So get that mixer going. We've been going for about 20 to 25 minutes. If you need to increase the speed just a little bit, you can, because that will warm the dough up. We don't want it to get really over 26 degrees Celsius because we don't want to start cooking the dough now. We just want to get it to about 24 and keep an eye on the temperature of the dough. As you can see, hopefully you can see that's at about 22 now, 21.8, 22. You should also see the bowl start to come clean. So we're going to keep doing that until we get to about 24 degrees Celsius. You'll see the dough become shinier and shinier, smoother and smoother. That's 23.6. Pretty close enough. I don't want to mix it anymore. I've been mixing it for a while. I'm going to slow that down, turn it off. Now if I pick up this dough, you see it's starting to get a shine to it. And you can see how elastic this dough is. And as I start to spread it, you can almost see through that. So it's quite a strong dough, which is perfect. So now we'll go to the next step. Okay, so we've got that to temperature. Close enough, and you saw that it's a very strong dough. We need to make sure we've got a strong dough. If it's falling apart as you're breaking, as you're trying to get it out, it's not ready. You've just got to keep mixing it. That's why it's easier in the mixer. So now we're going to take that off. We're going to put a little bit of olive oil on our bench, tiny bit on our hands. We're going to tip this dough out onto our bench. Our bowl's reasonably clean, pretty good. And we're just going to fold this. It's got a magnificent shine to it, this dough. It should be really, really shiny by now, smooth and shiny. It's quite wet, but it's not sticking in my hands because of the olive oil. So we just want to slap and fold this a couple of times. Not too much. Get it into a nice ball shape. And I'll do a close-up of this dough so you can have a look at how it looks. Okay, so we've got the bowl. A tiny bit of olive oil in there, just a tiny bit so that the dough comes out a bit easier. That back to a nice ball shape, nice skin on the top. Pick it up in your bowl, glad wrap over the top, in the fridge, 12 hours, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Alright, good morning, we're back. It's 7:30 the following morning. So we put our bulk dough in the fridge last night at about 7:30, 8 o'clock last night. It's been in there for 12 hours. We call this a bulk fermentation. So I will take that off there. As you can see, that has doubled in size. And what we want to do now, we put a little bit of flour on the bench. I'm going to tip this out onto our bench again. Coming out quite easy because we put that bit of olive oil in the bowl. Take that out. Give that a little bit of a fold. Not too much. I'm going to keep most of that air in this dough. I'm going to cover that only for about 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes. Give it time to come together so that there's no air pockets inside the dough, no holes inside the dough I should say. And then we're going to shape this into our balls. Always keep it covered, always, if it's in the box, always keep the lid on. Don't let the dough die out. So give that 5 to 10 minutes, we'll be back. Okay, so we've let that rest a few minutes, 10 minutes or so. We've got our scales over here, which I've turned on. Put a little bit of flour on my scales. And I've got a dough box here. Just want to sprinkle a little bit of flour in my dough box. And we're going to shape these balls. So, put some flour on this. It doesn't stick to our hands. Got a little bit of flour on the bench. We're going to cut this into, I'm going to do 250 gram balls. I only want to do small 12-inch pizzas. So I'm roughly going to start to weigh all this. What a fluke, that was exactly 250. So from this point on, the top of the dough here is going to be the top of the dough ball here, and it's going to be the top of the pizza when we put our ingredients and sauce on it. So get your ball, weigh it into your 250 grams, then sort of keeping that top, nice, shiny, smooth top, keep it over the top. You can just fold it over itself like that. And what I'm doing is I'm just tightening the top skin. Tightening the top skin. So that's one way of making a dough ball. Pinch it off at the bottom, and we don't want any holes on the bottom. We want that to be all sealed. We want that to be round, quite smooth. You can see there's bits of air in there. Sit it in your dough box. So that's it. That's it. We have made this Polish dough recipe. As I say, I like 30 hours. Make your Polish 12 hours. Take out the dough, take it out, mix it up, make your bulk dough in the fridge 12 hours. We call that bulk fermentation. That's pretty important. I mean, you can do that, like I say, in 4 hours, anything from 4 to 24. The Polish is anything from 12 to 24. The bulk fermentation anything from 4 to 24. Depends on your time, whatever you can do. The bulk fermentation is important. That's where the dough is going to develop most of its flavour. The yeast is going to eat all the sugars and starches and stuff in your dough, and you're going to get a tasty dough. If we make this little piece of dough into a bread roll, you see it tastes quite nice. It's not a doughy taste or anything like that. And now we've made the balls, which they call proofing, or proving, whatever you want to call it. This is where we let the dough rest. You might notice sometimes you have a pizza dough and you're trying to stretch it and it's springing back into shape. That's because the dough hasn't rested enough. These dough balls now will flatten a little bit and then they'll start to rise. So I like 6 hours. You could probably get away with 4 if it's a warm day. If it's a really cold day, it might even take 8. You want these to, like I say, flatten out not totally flat, but they'll flatten out a little bit, expand widthways, and then come up. And we don't want them, sometimes you see dough balls and they're all touching and they've come up to the height of the box. That's overproofed. That's been proving for too long. That's not very good either, because that means the dough might taste a bit sour. It's proofed for too long, it's rested for too long, and the dough might be a little bit, it might flatten out. When you go to stretch it, it'll flatten out like a pancake and stay like a pancake. Whereas when we stretch this dough, you'll see it's still relatively easy to work with. It's a very light, delicate, airy dough, and you're going to see how that performs inside an oven and how light it's going to be to eat compared to how heavy doughs can be to eat. Hopefully that helps. I will now put the lid on this straight away. Like I said, we have 9 dough balls here, 9.5. We've got the lid on that. I'm going to leave that at room temperature for 6 hours and then cook them up. So you can't really cook these pizzas in a conventional home oven, because these only get up to about 280 degrees Celsius. To cook this type pizza, we really want our floor to be 400 Celsius with a flame or heat over the top of around 500 Celsius. So that, and you'll see that once we put the dough ball, this dough ball, inside a hot oven, how it just puffs up and crunches up, and you get a soft, crunchy, airy, light, magnificent pizza. This is after 2 hours of resting. This is the dough after 4 hours. As you can see, it's puffed up quite nicely. They're touching each other. And yes, this would be the minimum where I would start to use this dough. If we open up this dough, that's the crust of that dough. It's very thin. Very well cooked, and soft, crunchy, delicious dough on its own, with no toppings whatsoever. This is my favourite recipe. If you make it, hope you have the success I've had, and it works out well. Enjoy, and see you next time. Thank you from Refrigerate Ovens. Ciao, goodbye. Thank you.